Hello guys, welcome back to my channel eWisdom. Today we are going to see what is demand, supply and equilibrium price. Have you ever heard about these words, demand, supply, equilibrium price, all such thing? And now I'm going to explain you all these three things in this video, and I have posted my sample answers in this video. Do watch and subscribe my channel. Let's get into the video now. What is demand? Demand is nothing but the willingness and ability to buy a product. We call it as demand. Now, I want apples and I have money for buying that apple and I am able to buy that apple. So which means I have both willingness and ability to buy a product, buy apple. So that is demand. But now I want a BMW car, but I don't have money and I am unable to buy it. So I have only willingness, not the ability to buy a product. And so this is not demand. When we have both willingness and ability to buy a product, we call it as demand. So here follows an example clip. Like you just try to understand what they are trying to portray. And I'll explain you what they are portraying. So we'll get into the thing. How much does 1 kg tomato cost? She's a customer and he's a shopkeeper and he tells that 1 kg is 50 rupees. And she bought that and again she's coming back for next week and she's asking, I want tomatoes again, how much does it cost? And the shopkeeper tells it costs 60 rupees per kg, and now she's only buying half a kg of tomatoes. What did you understand from the example? Very simple. When the price is high, she's demanding less, which means the price and demand are inversely proportional. In other words, when price increases, the demand decreases, and when price decreases, the demand will increase. And this is also known as law of demand. So the exact definition of law of demand is when other factors remaining constant, the price and demand are inversely proportional. This is the exact definition of law of demand. I'll explain you the other factors which affects the demand in my next video. Here is the next thing, that is individual demand. What is individual demand? When a single person is willing to buy a good or a service at different price, or else when a single person is demanding to buy a good at different price, we call it as individual demand. When I alone demand something, that is individual demand. Okay, now market demand. What is market demand? Sum of individual demand. When we all together demand something, we call it as market demand. Now, for example, in an economy, there are only 3 people. Just imagine individual A, individual B and individual C. So, individual A or a man A's demand plus B's demand plus C's demand, together we call it as market demand. So, sum of the individual demand, we tell it as market demand. Next we will see what is demand schedule. Have you ever heard about this demand schedule? It is nothing but the list that shows different quantities demanded at different prices over a period of time. At one column it will have about different prices, and with this different prices there will be different demand, quantity of demand for a product. So I'll show you with an example now. So as I told you, one side we have price, another side quantity demanded, right? So there are different level of prices from 60, 50, 40, 30, 20 and 10, and there are different levels of demand for the different prices, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 and 30. Now you see, when the price is 60, the quantity demanded is 5. When the price is 10, the quantity demanded is 30. So when the price is decreasing, the quantity demanded is increasing. As I told you, this is law of demand. And there are various reasons for this law of demand. I'll explain you about it in my upcoming videos. I repeat the definition of demand schedule. It is a list that shows different quantities demanded at different price levels over a period of time. You see, one side it is price, another side it is quantity demanded, and this total schedule is turned into a graph, and that we call it as demand curve. We have a curve in that graph, and that we call it as demand curve. Look at this graph. Yes. So here at the y-axis we have price and x-axis we have quantity demanded. So these things are must when you are going to draw a graph, and you have to name that graph as D. Fine, if it is demand curve. And now when the price is 50, again when the price is 50, the quantity demanded is 10. And when the price is 30, the quantity demanded is 20. So from 10 it is increasing to 20 when the price is decreasing. Right? So here the demand curve is downward sloping. Why it is downward sloping? Do you have any idea like why it is downward sloping? It is because of law of demand. As the price over here is decreasing, the demand is increasing, and that is why the demand curve is sloping downwards. But what happens to the demand curve, whether it will shift when there is change in price? Do you have any questions like this in your mind? Here are the answer if you have the question in your mind. Look at this. When there is change in price, there won't be any shift in the demand curve, but there will be movement along the demand curve. Now look at this. The current price is P and the quantity demanded is Q. And now the price is decreasing to P1 and the quantity demanded is Q1. So when the price is decreasing, there is expansion in the demand curve. From Q to Q1 there is expansion. So when the price is decreasing, we have expansion in the demand curve. And now for example, again our current price level is P. Now if the price is going to increase, okay, now it's increasing to P1 and the quantity is decreasing. Sorry, let us take it as P2, not P1, because P1 is already here. So P2 and the quantity is Q2. Yes. Now when the price is increasing, the quantity demanded is decreasing, and this we call it as contraction in the demand curve. So when the price is increasing, we call it as contraction in the demand curve. Now did you understand the difference between expansion and contraction in the demand curve? So there will be movement when there is change in price. There won't be any shift in the demand curve when there is change in the price. There will be shift in the demand curve when other factors other than price, such as income, price of substitutes, all such thing changes, the demand curve will shift. I'll explain you about those factors affecting demand in my next video. So this is demand curve. Hope you understood the meaning of what is demand and what is law of demand, what is demand schedule and what is demand curve. Now we are going to deal with supply. Just put the demand aside. Now let us see what is supply. Supply is nothing but willingness and ability to sell a good or a service. We call it as supply. Like demand having individual demand and market demand, supply also have individual supply as well as market supply. It follows with the example clip again in order to find out the law of supply. This example clip will explain you about the law of supply. So as I told you, this is the example clip. So price of 3 donuts is 90 rupees, which means 1 donut is equal to 30 rupees. Now when there is change in its price, what will happen to the supply? For example, when the price of donuts increases to 120 rupees, what will happen to its supply now? The supply of the donuts will be increasing as there is increase in the price. Did you understand? So when there is increase in price, the supply of donuts will also increase. So this is nothing but the law of supply. So from this example, it is clear that the supply is directly proportional, which means the supply increases when price increases and the supply will decrease when the price is going to decrease. So this is again law of supply. Why it is so? Because always the producer will expect the profit. So when the price increases, he will supply more. He thinks that he will earn more when the price is going to increase, so he will supply more. And now, supply schedule and supply curve. So you know what is supply schedule. As like demand schedule, we have supply schedule over here. So look at this. Price is 15 and supply is 5,000. And when the price is 3, the supply is 1,000. So which means as the price decreases, the supply is also decreasing. And look at the supply curve over here. At 15 it is 5 and 12 it is 4, 6 it is 2 and 3 it is 1. So this schedule is turned into this supply curve. So it is like an upward sloping curve, right? So yes. So now did you understand what is supply curve and what is supply schedule? Now as usual, we will again see what happens to the supply curve when there is change in price. As I told you already, in demand curve there won't be any shift even in supply curve when there is change in the price. The supply curve will also move. I will explain you with an example now. So yes guys, we have seen about demand and supply. Now we will see about equilibrium. So here is a clip. Just look at the clip here. Here he is a producer or a seller. He wants to sell at high price. Okay, and she is a customer and she wants goods at low price. If it is going to be at high price, she will try to change the price, like try to reduce the price just by bargaining it. Look at it. I will bargain to reduce the price. This is what she is telling. If this is going to be the situation, what will happen? We will see that now. So now, if this is a situation, how will they set price? This is the biggest question now. They will charge price at equilibrium level where the demand and supply intersects. Here is a table for your better understanding. So look at this table. It will be easy for you to understand about the equilibrium price and where the demand and supply, all such things. Here is a table. Look at the price 50, 40, 30, 20, 10 and demand 100, 200, 300, 400 and 600 and look at the supply 600, 500, 300, 150. Now here is an equilibrium position where demand and supply is equal. Look at this. At price 30, both demand and supply is equal and this point is known as equilibrium price, and this is where they set it as equilibrium price. If they're going to set above the equilibrium price or if they're going to set below the equilibrium price, I will tell you what will happen. Before that, let's look into a graph of equilibrium price now. Okay, and one more thing to note here is at the price 50, the demand is only 100. When the price is 10, the demand is 600. And look at the supply. When the price is 50 and the supply is 600, and when the price is 10, it's only 50. So the supply is decreasing when the price is decreasing and the demand is increasing when the price is decreasing. So how do they set price? They set the price when there is equality in demand and supply. That is when demand and supply intersects, they set that as the equilibrium price. Look at this graph now. So this is the graph. So look at it. Over here is a place where they set it as equilibrium price, and this is the quantity sold, that is equilibrium quantity. This is where, so this point is equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. Right? Now when the price is set above the equilibrium or below the equilibrium, there will be some problem. Let's look into that now. So yes guys, now what will happen if the price is set above the equilibrium? For example, the firm is selling these chocolates for 10 rupees each. So they are supplying 6,000 but the customers are buying only 2,000. Look at the graph. I'll show you the graph now. Here is the graph. So here they're selling at 10 rupees, the demand is 2,000 and the supply is 6,000. Do you guys know like how did I tell it is 2,000 units of demand and 6,000 units of supply? Look at this is the demand curve and this is price 10. So this price 10, at price 10 the demand curve is over here. So it is 2,000 units and at price 10 the supply curve is over here and it is 6,000 units. So they will be able to buy only 2,000 units but they are supplying 6,000 units. So they are supplying more. There is excess supply when compared to demand. So there will be extra amount of chocolate which will be unsold. And that amount of chocolate we call it as surplus. Surplus is nothing but excess in amount. So look at this. This gap is the surplus amount. So how do you calculate this surplus amount? So the supply is 6,000 and the demand is 2,000, right? So they are producing 6,000 but they have sold only 2,000. So 6,000 minus 2,000 will tell you the surplus amount. That is 4,000 units of surplus amount. When supply is greater than demand, there will be surplus in units. Now, as there is surplus, there will be reduced in price. When it is reduced to 8 rupees 8 each chocolate, then the demand and supply will meet at one point, that is equilibrium price. Again they will come back to the equilibrium price. So they will be able to produce 4,000 units or supply 4,000 units as well as buy, like customers will buy those 4,000 units. That is they will demand 4,000 units. So supply and demand will be equal at this position. There will be no surplus amount. But what will happen if it is been sold below the equilibrium price? Now I'll explain you that right now. Let's now think of another case. As I told you, when it is set below or less than the equilibrium, what will happen? Let's look at the example with the graph. Here is a graph and when it is sold for rupees 3 which is below the equilibrium price, actually don't compare this graph with another like previous graph, both are different. And this is the equilibrium point but it is sold below the equilibrium point, for example at rupees 3, and it can be able to sell 50 units but it has only supplied 20 units. Here the situation is there are 50 demand but 20 units are only supplied, so there is shortage. So here the demand is greater when compared to the supply. This point or this situation is called as shortage. As you already know, shortage is nothing but there is not enough goods to satisfy the customers. So what will happen? Automatically they will increase the price. So it will come to the equilibrium position where demand and supply becomes equal. So I'll show you another graph which will help you to understand both the things. Look, when the price is sold at higher price, it will become surplus. When it is sold at lower price, it will become shortage. So it will be sold at equilibrium position where demand and supply is getting equal. So this is why the goods are sold at equilibrium price. Fine, did you understand the difference between surplus and shortage? Now we'll see the concept based question and the solution for my previous video, that is on economic system. Yes, this is going to be the answer for my previous video, that is on economic system. So analyze the difference between market economy and a mixed economy. So as I am telling it from my first video, this is just a sample answer. Don't ever get disappointed if your answer is not here. Just check the marking scheme. So check whether your key points and that key points are matching, then you will get a better mark. So this is how you can write. Maybe you can take this as an idea and you can make it a better way of writing. So take a screenshot or whatever it is. And the next question is here. Explain why most countries have mixed economies. So again you can take, as it is for 6 marks, I have written so much. Even you can write more than this, but try to be in a limit. And I've told you, like, third question is for 8 marks. It is about discussion. Discussion means you have to write both the side, advantages of market economy as well as disadvantage of the market economy. And then you have to give a conclusion. There must be a government intervention in order to have some goods such as non-financial incentive goods, all such thing you can include and conclude. I have not given the answer for my third question. It is similar to these two questions, so try answering them. Just you have to write the advantage, disadvantage and give the conclusion. When the question arises, discuss, you have to write both the sides. Okay, have a nice day. And one more thing is, like, I didn't give any concept based question in this video because this is just part 1 about demand and supply, and next video is about part 2 of demand and supply. So have a nice day. Hope this video was very informative for you.